Hello there, Qckslvrslash here with today's World of Warships video. You can see I am playing my Tier 9 American cruiser, the Baltimore, on Trap Domination mode. Now technically this is a Tier 10 game, but each team only has one 10 and one 9. Otherwise it is a very Tier 8 battle, and that bodes well for me, particularly trying to deal with these carriers, because I can absolutely eat through their planes, and the battleships, while still posing a threat to me, somehow aren't as scary because they're not 10s. So off the bat, we spawn in and I decide I am going to go for A. However, very quickly it becomes apparent and the team even says, "Yo, quick, we're going for C." And I roger out and decide to turn around, because there's no way I'm going to try to push into a cap all alone in a cruiser. If I was a DD, I might try that, because I can always use my stealth to get away and go where the rest of the team's going. So with more or less our entire team aimed for going to C, I am left with a tough call. You know, do I push into B? It looks like our destroyer is going to. Do I follow him into B to potentially jump on the one destroyer on the enemy team? Or do I kind of follow them? And as I've shared in the How I Play It video of my Baltimore, I've got this thing built for stealth. So my detection range is 9.7 kilometers, and I can just stealth fire, I believe. So we see a set of enemy torpedo bombers, and I'm going to continue to try to close them. I think they get turned away from that by that fighter squadron, which is rather unfortunate, and then I see the Bismarck, the Tier 8 German battleship that is very shortly going to join us. I suspect by the time a lot of you will watch this video, it will already be available in the tech tree. And I cannot say how excited I am for that. But my first couple volleys, well off target, one shell hitting and it bounces, and you can see I am using AP, because at that outer range of my gun range, the shells are coming in nearly vertical and do have chances for penetrations and much higher damage than just HE spam would have. And that's really how I find I play almost all cruisers. Close and far, I use AP. Middle ranges tends to be HE, unless it's a lightly armored target. So after failing to hit the Bismarck, I switched to the North Carolina and switched to some HE, because I just wasn't getting any results with my AP. I mean, only one round hit. But I decide that going for the fires may be a little more worth it. And you can see right at the edge of the range, these guns, their accuracy just isn't really there. Rounds dropping short and long, none actually connecting, which is rather unfortunate. And both those battleships decide that I am target number one. I turn, and because of the long flight time, I managed to avoid getting hit by any of them, and I'm finally starting to connect some rounds for damage on the enemies. So the location you see me on the map is where I'm going to spend most of this game. Our CV hasn't moved yet, but I am expecting him to start moving more towards the north and east to avoid the big push of enemy ships through here. And I want to make sure that destroyer or enemy cruiser don't get an easy shot at him, because in this game, a Tier 8 carrier, mostly Tier 8 battleships, he can have a massive impact if I let him do that. You can see he's throwing his torpedoes, they're down, working at the cruiser at A, and overall I want to help him and make sure he stays in it. So I park up behind this island, use that high gun arc of the American ships to shoot over and continue to try to put damage in to the Bismarck. managed to interrupt the cap there a little too, which is actually a fairly important role. It's the only one we're holding right now, and can't afford to give it up. At least until we have C. Once we've got C, they've got A, we're pretty much balanced on caps, and then it's not as big a problem. And what I'm doing now, I'm not detected. I'm gonna try to poke this corner. I've got AP loaded. That Hindenburg is right there, fairly close range. I suspect he'll be about 8 kilometers when I come around the corner, and I really want to try to surprise him. Unfortunately, the enemy Atago gets spotted and is closing me, so he becomes target 1. I turn hard, hoping not to expose myself to any of the ships down here that I was going for. You know, the thing you always want to do in both ships and tanks is control how many ships can shoot back at you or how many tanks can fire at you. You never want to expose to any more than is absolutely necessary, which is why you can see me driving back towards the north, trying to put more of that land between me and the enemies. And it manages to work. Only that Hindenburg is in a position to put shots on me, and I'm staying pretty much stern onto both of them, and you can see they're not getting a lot of effective damage in. Meanwhile, I continue to try to work this Atago down. AP is not the best thing to be using with him nose on, but I was noticing wiggling a bit to try to get more of the turrets on, so I wanted to keep using AP, hoping to catch him off guard and get some citadels. And you can see finally our carriers kind of realized what's going on. He is getting out of the way, and I switch to AP as I get lit on fire, hoping to do the same to him. First shot breaks his rudder. I turn a little too side on, get away with it. All those rounds bouncing off of me. Quite lucky with that one. And I continue to put damage on him and break modules. And you can see that enemy Kagero over there puts some torps into the water at me, but because I've been driving an erratic course and away from him, these aren't going to be too hard to dodge. I swing my stern clear and continue to engage that Atago. And sadly, have HE loaded as he gives me his broadside at 5 kilometers. So I fire one turret, start reloading, use my heal to start recovering some of the minor damage I've taken, and this Atago's done.
Enemy cruiser sunk.
So next on my list really is that Kagero. He is who I want to chase after. You can see I have radar fitted, so I'm not too worried if I get near a smoke screen or end up in a position where I'm chasing him. I can activate that and get some good vision. Unfortunately, that Atago put torps in the water as he was dying, so I maneuver, trying to get my stern over and clear, and I kill my speed so these torps cross me and get past me much quicker. And it's a good thing because there's another set of Kagero torpedoes. So far you can see our team's not doing too hot. We only have 1 cap. The enemy team has 2. The enemy team's also ahead by 1 kill and 100 points. Not the best place to be, but by no means are we out of this. We're fairly grouped up. We've got their ships are kind of separated into a couple different areas. You can see a pair of them way over in the 10 line, 3 of them in the middle, and then this other little group off to the west. As long as we as a team can focus and really take them out strategically, we're in an excellent place to pull this game back. Especially when you look over, their North Carolina and Bismarck are both fairly damaged, and you can't see our battleships, but at this point they were still in good health, and I still have a lot of hope for this one. So with the Kagero not spotted and that enemy Hindenburg, not a rune, tier 10, It's their big guy off on my side, but not paying attention to me. I'm hoping to hit this carrier with a couple HE rounds, light a fire on his flight deck, and at least temporarily prevent him from launching any ships. But with the Hindenburg turning to give me his broadside, I switch to AP, put the shells in the air, hoping for a big hit. You know, if I got lucky here, I could possibly kill him, but 6 overpens, that really hurts. He's still fairly side on, so I give him another volley. And this is where I really start to have to make decisions. I activate my anti-air consumable with the carrier so close and his squadrons. I continue to fire at the Hindenburg, hoping I can kill him. Don't manage, and now it's got to be all Lexington. And you'd see a lot of people at this kind of range still using HE, which I don't get, because carriers are just giant citadels waiting to happen. See, first volley, 6 shells fired, 5 citadels, get my stern turret firing, another one out of the front, another 3 citadels. I've taken them from full health to pretty much nothing in 2 volleys. I, at this point, feel I can ignore him, secondaries finish him off, and I go back to trying to kill the Hindenburg, finishing him off with a citadel and getting that rare double strike. I find the double strike just quite hard to come by in ships because so often you're not in a situation to be able to fire your turrets at enough different targets on low health. Often it's, you know, destroyers I tend to get it in, where I'm firing my guns at one thing and a torpedo hits something else. So it's here that really I'm just trying to get away. You can see me. Everything is firing at me, and I'm hoping to get outside that 9.7 from the Kagero. And right as I get to 9.8, the North Carolinians a shell on me. What a heartbreak, but the game is not done. We've pulled it back. We still only have 1 cap point, but the enemy team has fallen apart. I managed to take out their tier 10 and their carrier, giving us air dominance, and there is no better feeling than being in a carrier when the enemy CV is dead. You have free reign to do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about what their fighter squadrons are doing or anything. So you can see the 1 North Carolina way out of position, and the para-enemy cruisers down here to the south. Meanwhile, our entire team is fairly well grouped up at sea, and spare battleships are doing the right thing. They're pushing into B to pull the caps back. You know, it's starting to look a little desperate with where we are, but all in all, we're only 160 points down, and if we get the cap, we're going to get twice as much as them. So if you consider that by the time we get the cap, they'll probably be at 800 points. Well, in the time they get 200, we're going to get 400. And that difference would be enough for us to win it. And that's how I always end up thinking in these late game situations when the points are a little different, is how many caps do I have to hold, assuming no one dies, to win the game? And you can use that simple math. And sometimes it works out that, hey, I can afford to let the enemy take one of these. I just have to make sure I always have one, and we're going to win by points. And you can see right there, they got to 800, and now we're continuing to close. And I question what this North Carolina is doing. He's continuing to close our turrets, and you know, the turrets only has 6-kilometer torpedoes, but if you get into that kind of range, as an American battleship, you're in trouble. The turrets guns can easily penetrate your citadel from that kind of close range if you give them a flat side, and he's going to be able to put torps into the water to just absolutely eat away at your hit points. And yet that enemy North Carolina is just sitting there more or less side on. I think our turrets made a misplay not using AP. And Our CV puts some torpedoes into the water, gets 1, gets 2. Huge hit points off this North Carolina. And I think at this point the North Carolina's probably going, I'm going to get a ram. You know, I'm going to go out honorably, take something down with me. You can see his rudder looks to be trying to come over, but too little too late. He puts a couple good shots into the turrets, but the turrets only needed 1 torpedo to finish him off, and our second battleship is about to take B. So with my team now holding 2 caps, we really hold the advantage. We're only 60 points down, and we're going to double any points they can get. Their hipper is spotted. He's in gun range to a number of our vessels. He manages to take one out though, but he's also getting dangerously close to a couple battleships, and he is side on. You can see our Nagato fires a volley. All of it missing, unfortunately. Tirpitz is also shooting, and really, you know, that hipper can try, he can struggle, but end of the day, not a good position for him to be. He would be much better off grouped up with his friendly Mogami going after our Tirpitz. You know, a pair of cruisers can easily eat through 30,000 health, but sitting in the middle... Oh, I have no idea why it just jumped around like that. You know, sitting right next to a battleship is not the place you need to be. He should be using his speed and, honestly, maneuverability to try to outflank on the map. And he gets finished off. I have no idea why it is jumping around like that. And now, scores are pretty much even, and just their Mogami left, and you'd have to be a pretty great cruiser player to take out a pair of battleships, another cruiser, and a carrier. And really, this one is all but done. We're gonna take the point lead soon. You can see the clock getting just under 3 minutes. This one is about to end. And really now it's just, is it gonna be time and us walking away with points, or this Mogami getting finished off? He eats a huge shot from our Tirpitz. Our Nagato puts some rounds in the air, misses, but you know, this is not a spot I envy. My god, I wish that wouldn't happen. You can see our carrier's playing smart. He's got his fighter groups alongside that torpedo squadron in order to cause extra things for the cruiser's guns to fire at. If he doesn't automatically target the torpedo squadron, he's not going to get them. And he just ducks those torpedoes, but he's on relatively low health, and there's the death shot. And while I didn't make it to the end of the game in this one, I really felt I contributed. I kept our aircraft carrier safe, which is why I hung out where I did. Ended up making 394,000 credits, 8,000 experience with my win of the day, got a close quarter expert, double strike, did 116,000 damage with 86 shells, 3 kills, 10 citadels, and overall really good game. Those citadels, I really think, I hope people realize, like, just because fire immobilizes an aircraft carrier's deck doesn't mean fire is the most effective thing. If you're in a cruiser, you can erase aircraft carriers in short order if you're using AP and hitting their citadels. Topped the team, nearly 2,400 base experience, and that just speaks to how good a game this was for me. I feel anytime I break 2,000, I'm normally really happy with the game, and this one is no exception. And you can see I didn't actually get to shoot it too much. I spent the first part of the game shooting that Bismarck, and then I engaged the Otago until he was dead. Then I started to engage the Hindenburg as I closed the Lexington, and then I just ripped the Lexington apart and finished the Hindenburg off. A little disappointed that I wasn't able to get away at the end there from that Kagero and North Carolina shooting at me, but still really happy with the damage and the overall game. The team played really well. They were talking right to the end, communicating. Even though we'd had that Admiral Hipper that disconnected, we stayed in it, and it was nice to see just a really positive chat. I gave a couple compliments out that game because of it, and that's what I want to see in World Warships and Tanks, is people helping each other, complimenting each other on a nice game. Even the enemy team and our team complimenting the enemies. It was just really positive experience and good game. See, I walked away with 182,000 credits and just shy of 10,000 for the commander here. Still working on getting a couple more skill points on him. He's got his 5th skill, but I want to backfill some of the others. Hope you enjoyed this game, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. I would love a subscription too if you feel my content is something you'd enjoy. I'll have another video for you guys tomorrow, and have a good night.